We are stoked.
I'm a terrible sore loser. I don't follow the rules.
All the bearded guys seem to lie. Yeah.
There are rumors galore.
I am so up and down on my emotions right now.
Retain salad.
Okay. Where there is smoke, there is always fire, etc., etc., etc.
You don't do it.
Been there, done that.
And we'll get into it later.
They know crap about hockey.
Come on. Well, I laugh it off.
I have no issue.
Here's the thing, though. I have nothing to do.
I'm okay with this deal.
There was no other option.
So now you have nothing.
We already blew it.
Win now, win now.
It paid off.
I will eat my pants.
Hey guys, it's Two Guys in Hockey Talk. I'm Pavel the Cat and my co-host
Evan Aaron, it's coming right at ya. Hey Pavel, last week over 11,000 views on our podcast. I think we were doing something right.
I think I was doing something right. I was on camera. I think if we blocked you out, we get another 11.
Well, pretty soon you might have to go on long-term injury reserve for having to carry me on this show so much, man.
Pretty much.
I appreciate it. No, I just want to send a big shout out, guys, for all the views, following us on all your different channels. Also, to remember to like, follow, share, subscribe on our YouTube as well. Every night, Friday, Wednesday nights. I don't even know my nights anymore. Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. We're here on Facebook Live, and also we have our podcast up on 9 o'clock. So, hey, we got a packed show for you. So before we jump in, hey man, grab your bevy, everyone. Let's grab a drink and let's get our sticks on the ice because we got a lot to cover. I do want to say we are going to cover, get ready everyone, if you have been an Oiler fan, an Edmonton Oiler fan, you've been dying to get it out, and I keep holding Pavel back. I say, man, slow down, pal. You know, and no, actually I don't. I've been wanting to talk about this, and we have been holding off. And with everything that has happened around the hockey world, we're getting people coming in. Like, so Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are all over in the United States. They're getting 60% more airtime than any other player. So obviously you guys in the United States, you want to hear what's going on, like them or hate them. And obviously, we know in Western Canada, they're a big talk. We also know in Toronto, they're a big talk because they absolutely hate Edmonton. So if you don't like the Oilers, you don't want to hear about the Oilers, you say you're a bunch of homers because you live in Edmonton, then you can shut the show off and we'll give you a warning, about 2 minutes before we're going into that. But we'll give them some new information or updated information just before we go there. So what's a couple topics we want to cover before we get into the Edmonton Oilers and what the heck is going on in Edmonton?
Well, I mean, we got the All-Star game coming up soon. The last man in votes were in. So we've got the last 4 guys in that were voted in. Troy Terry out of Anaheim. You got Nazem Kadri having an unreal year. I think he's top 5 or 6 in points, which is insane. But, you know, they already have Makar and McKinnon representing him. So that's insane. You got Steven Stamkos, who would be a great representation. And who's the final one that's coming in? It's escaping me. You got one more guy.
Who came in? I looked at the West and I didn't pay attention to the East. So guys, we always come prepared, and we want to thank you for bearing with us when we don't know our information.
Jake, is it Jake Gensel?
Jake didn't get in. I don't think Jake got. Guy, right in the side. You guys are listening right now. Let us know who they are.
No, he did, but it's because Mika Zibanejad is opting out because he got voted in. So Jake Gensel's coming in.
Woo!
But Sidney Crosby's not going to be there, which is very unheard of. Like, how do you not have the best player in the world represent your sport, especially since Alexander Ovechkin is going to be captain of the Metro team there?
Oh, so, okay, this just takes us, I was just having a conversation with my mom the other day. And yes, if you want to follow my mom, I can't tell you her name, but I'll tell you, she likes to argue when she gets up on Facebook, right, Mom? She argues for her Calgary Flames, and I got to give it to her. Even though I am ABC, anybody but Calgary, my mom is only Calgary. So she's an OC in like Orange County. Okay, but anyway, we were talking the other day, and I just got this 2 days ago, and we're saying about the All-Star. Would you rather have no rep? McKinnon brought this up, right, with Nazem Kadri getting in. Would you rather not have your team? Let's pretend your team sends nobody if they don't have one representative. And another team, say like Tampa or Colorado, has 5 players. Would you be okay with that?
Yes and no. So I have two points on this. One, okay.
Thank you for being so decisive.
I feel like you're exercising more than you need to with your eye rolling, keep going up and down. So I understand that you want the best of the best, and I agree that Nazem Kadri should have been picked out. You want the best players to be representing the game because you're showcasing the game. The other thing is the All-Star game is for kids. And if some kids are big fans of a team like a Montreal or an Arizona, who we may not think they have the biggest superstars in the world, they have excellent players. You have a Clayton Keller, you have a Phil Kessel. You want to represent that market. You want to give them something to cheer about. Otherwise, why would they tune in? At the same time, you want the best player represented there to see the skills of the best NHL, not the best NHL on every team, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I kind of weighed my decision making, because I think you want to represent markets that may not necessarily get promoted, which is what Gary Bettman always wants to do, promote the lesser markets, but you also want to showcase the best talent, right? So maybe have a longer event and have the young, exhilarating, exciting kids there, but also the veterans, and have people involved in different ways. If Sidney Crosby's not going to play, have him commentate, have him do something different, have him come judge the game, or coach or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I hear everything you said, except you said the All-Star game's for kids. Now, who said it was for kids, man? Okay, who pays? So you're saying all the parents pay for their kids to be a part of the All-Star game, and they're bringing their kids to the All-Star game. Yeah. It's not adults sitting in those seats.
Oh, no, there's adults. There's nothing wrong with adults watching the game. I'm saying predominantly the whole event is for kids.
So does that mean a mom and dad are bringing, or a dad or a mom are bringing one kid? Are they bringing one kid with them? That means 1/3 of the stadium is kids in the All-Star game? Usually. Here's my take. I think the skills competition is for kids. That's what I think. And I actually see, I remember the Oilers back in their heyday in the 80s sent 7 players, 2 goaltenders for the Western Conference. But there was 21 teams. There is now 32 teams. So if you have 2 sides running, say, 24 players, you can only bring 48, and that means you can't even get 2 players a team. With it. So I think that everything's changed. I think that, this is All-Star, this is skills. I think, why could you not bring someone to play in the two different levels? Let's make it is 2 different days. Have a skills competition, and there are players that will compete only in the skills competition. And then there are players that will play in the All-Star game, and they'll fill in the skills competition. How about that?
Yeah, that could potentially work. I'm going to ask you a question, and don't get Seattle fans don't get upset. Who do you send from Seattle apart from Giordano, who was selected, if they don't have a superstar there?
You got to, because we're going to talk about the Edmonton Oilers today. You got to take Jordan Eberle. I mean, the guy's a skill machine. I think it's a perfect game for Jordan Eberle.
Maybe. Yeah. Do you think he's a superstar then?
No longer. I think he's a star player, but not a superstar.
Do you hear that, Seattle fans? Evan's just throwing shade at you.
But you know who I do think, and okay, let's come back to this when we talk about the Oilers. I do think they should go after a player that's on Edmonton right now, and I think that there's 2 players that they can get in a deal, and there's some possibilities. We're going to talk about Seattle when we come to the Oilers talk. Okay, last question for the All-Star game. What would this whole 3-on-3 tournament? I kind of liked it for the first year. I said, yeah, let's do it for the second. Oh, and I'm tired of this now. It's not a real game anymore. It's just like
No.
I want Western Conference versus Eastern Conference, and even better yet, Pavel. I know they'll never do this because it takes less stars and they got too many teams and players. But could we not have the Stanley Cup champs take on the All-Star team?
That'd be an exciting thing. I like that.
That was what it was. I don't know. Someone can update on the timeline. I think the last one was in the early 70s, or late 70s when they last had the Montreal Canadiens, I believe it was, played the All-Star team. So could you imagine the Tampa Bay Lightning? They're full team, so no one's selected to the All-Star game because they're going to be there. They're the All-Stars because they won the Stanley Cup. I love it, man. Let's see how good the Stanley Cup champs really are.
The big thing you have to remember is that, players play easily in these games, so it's more of like a light, banter. It's like a pond hockey, designed for kids, as one would say. But you worry about goaltenders because they still have to make a save, right? And maybe sometimes showcase, a glove save or something, or a blocker save or whatnot. And you worry about your goaltenders being injured, right? So would you risk sending your best of the best, right? But I mean, that's usually what the Olympics are like too. So yeah, I would be down for that.
Yeah. I think the only thing with the Stanley Cup champs, you'd hate to see an injury in an All-Star game. So it almost maybe they need to take the All-Star game like some leagues and do it after the Stanley Cup. Anyway.
Here's what I say. You create an All-Star weekend where you have the best NHL stars versus the best world stars. Every best player from the KHL, Swedish Hockey League, Finnish Hockey League, maybe even American Hockey League, your top scorers. Right, you bring them all together and you face it off. The way that sometimes you have rookie organization teams play college students, right? Yeah. Like Edmonton Oilers will sometimes play their rookies against the U of A Panda Bears, right?
Yeah. So not too bad, not too bad. Okay, we better get off this All-Star thing. People are getting tired and they said, listen, we're not a bunch of kids. Quit talking to us about a kids game. Okay, so let's move over. You posted on our Facebook page, if you guys haven't been checking us out on a daily basis. By the way, we post more when you view more. Check and like and make sure you're following on all of our updates and stuff. We have a lot we can give you, but we only give as much as you guys look like you're demanding. So be more demanding and we'll give more. Update us. Montreal, we've been talking about it. It's happened.
Yep, they finally made their GM search complete. Kent Hughes has been hired in as the new GM of the Montreal Canadiens. So he's coming in. Jeff Gordon's still there, formerly of the New York Rangers. This guy is a former lawyer, players advocate. He signed a lot of deals, especially for a lot of French Canadian players like Patrice Bergeron and Chris Letang, who, fun fact, are up this season or this summer. So would we see them transition over to Montreal? I'm sure Montreal Canadian fans are just salivating at the possibility of having Letang in the back and then having Patrice Bergeron on the top center line. Of course, it won't happen, but don't at me, Boston fans and Pittsburgh fans, but you can imagine. And of course, our very own Darnell Nurse, he represented him for a little bit too. So he just helped him sign that big deal. So we'll see how it goes. It's definitely a different take for Montreal. He is fluent in French, which was something very important to that market. And, that market is going through a rebuild right now. They have some good core young pieces. And they want to probably build around Nick Suzuki. Now, I think the one big question that they're going to have is the status of Carey Price. And it looks like as of now, he's not going to be back this year at all. So any trade rumors with Price, they're out the window, even if you were somewhat healthy. I think he's done and may return next season. So.
Okay, well, let's come back to that when we talk about the Edmonton Oilers. Okay, before we go there, I just wanted to mention, and for people that aren't familiar, Gordon and Hughes are good friends on the ice and off the ice. So there was a natural connection. Brian Lawton actually specifically himself actually said all along he thought it was going to be Hughes coming in, which is interesting because he didn't actually bring that to anyone's attention, because I think he had a little bit of inside information, but he was being careful with, asked not to share too much. So the question just comes, and we won't get into it today, Pavel. We can just give our quick, fast thought. Are Hughes and Gordon going to rebuild or retool?
Rebuild. They have to rebuild.
What do you guys think? I'm going to say a rebuild too. Okay. All right. Let's move over to Vancouver. What's happened in Vancouver? Do we have any decisions yet? What's the latest word on the street?
I think they're down to, I believe, 2 to 3 candidates. Potentially, there's some rumblings, maybe more, but I think they're kind of down to what they want to pick. Jim Rutherford, again, he's making his search extensive. I remember when I think they got up to like 60 names or candidates that they were going to interview, which was insane, and I mean, that team is rolling along, and I don't know if they want to make a decision anytime soon, because really, unless you want to make a deal before the trade deadline, I'm sure that assistant GM can probably step in, but really Vancouver's ready to roll, and they're trying to just make it to that last wild card spot, and they've surpassed Edmonton for that spot. So as of now, as we're talking, so who knows? I mean, they're rolling under Boudreau. They're doing well, they're clicking, and we'll see where they're at the end of the year and how they do. So they may end up making the playoffs and surprising a few people with a round or two. Who knows?
All right. Well, and the two names that are coming out the most, number one is Patrick Elvin, and the other one is Scott Mellanby. So if you guys aren't familiar, Scott Mellanby started in management as a special consultant in Vancouver. I love Scott Mellanby on the Flyers back in the 90s there. Or late 80s. Wonderful player. Now he also got his opportunities when he started there and he moved around. He did some coaching, he did some assistant GMing and stuff. But Rutherford wants to narrow that down, and let's not forget he's the one that worked with Patrick Elvin over in Pittsburgh, and he has extensive scouting background with Sweden, and had spent over 16 years kind of working there, and was promoted by. I mean, everything leads to. I'm telling you, it's Patrick Elvin. When they're going to call it, I think, like you said. I think they're going to kind of wait for the right moment to not distract from what's going on the ice. That's all that they're waiting for right now. I don't think there's going to be much difference on that. And I think Patrick Elvin works very smoothly with Rutherford. And I think it would be a perfect fit for Patrick to also take on president duties when that day comes. Because Rutherford is older, right? He's just going in there to do a little loo work, if you want to call it that. So that's my take.
Yeah. All right. Well, it looks like everyone put their house money on Patrick. Evan's put.
Okay, and if you lose money, I'll pay $1 on every 100 that you put out there. Pay you back if you lose. Remember, you got to bet 100 for me to pay you $1 back. You got to lose 100 for me to give you $1. All right, I am ready to talk about the Edmonton Oilers. So hang on to your hats, baby. If you got an Oiler cap, get ready. You might be throwing that thing off. It is a crap show in Edmonton this year. We talked on our show with Aaron and Jordan a while back on a few of our episodes. I believe it was around episode 12 or 13. It was
Aaron, Brent, and
Brent Huska.
Aaron and Brent.
Okay, Aaron and Brent. Well, Jordan got the cue in there, so it was Brent. My apology, Brent. You can correct me down there in the comments if you like. So anyway, and so we talked Mirage, not Mirage. I can't remember what they said. So make sure you go back there and check out that episode.
Oh, I do. I remember. Everyone said they were for real. It was either, is this a Mirage or are they for real?
I thought someone said.
Both believe.
I thought someone said it was a Mirage. I think Aaron said it was a Mirage. Okay, I don't know. You guys can correct me whatever we said because we can't remember what comes out of this mouth.
Nope.
But I'm going to say I said it was for real, but it wasn't for real that it would continue. I think it was a 16-5 record at the time or somewhere around then. They have absolutely collapsed. So what we want to talk about is we want to talk about what's wrong, what's our takes. Let's cover some players. It's such a mess that Hall of Famer writer Jim Matheson gets right into it, calls Leon Draisaitl that he's being pissy, talking right in there on the broadcast. You got him, you got Leon, spouting back saying, "Oh well, you know everything." And don't forget, Jim Matheson has had problems. Even Ryan Nugent-Hopkins says, "Well, whatever, Jim." I mean, I don't know what's going on, but I will say this: in defense of the media, the media has to ask questions. They got to write articles. They got to put their stuff together. In defense of the players, they're tired of the exact same question being asked. They're tired of trying to almost out somebody else on the team, of saying whose fault is it. The players aren't going to do it. And you know what? They all should be angry right now. They all should be mad because it's a crap show in Edmonton and it's no fun and everybody's not doing well. And they're talking about the same thing because they played one game in 14, 15 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
COVID is really. First off, COVID has hit this team very heavily. Oh. And as of, I think this morning, the NHL has announced the rescheduling of not only Oilers, but a lot of the other teams like Ottawa and most Canadian teams that have had to postpone games.
That's right.
For the upcoming month or two, because of the Olympic schedule being that break that they had, that 3-week break. So there are games being made up. Now, as you recall from last year, Vancouver had to make a lot of games. I think it was like 19 games in 30 days or 34 days. It was chaos. It was a lot, and they were exhausted, right? So that in itself is going to take a lot. That being said, if you look at teams that have played through COVID, like had COVID go through their entire organization, like Ottawa, like Toronto, they got back and they were able to start performing. But it took a while before that affected them, right? And of course, it went through everyone, regardless of whether they were vaccinated or not.
The Oilers, I believe, have around 28, 29 games in 60 days. Mm-hmm. That's what their schedule's looking like. So Go ahead. Keep going.
No, so it's going to be a hectic, busy schedule. Now, most players will tell you they prefer like a game every other day. It's preferable. Of course, there's going to be some back-to-backs. Of course, there's going to be things that you're going to have to fly to a further zone. And that's one of the difficulties of playing in the Western Conference is the flight zone from like east to west or from any arena is much longer, right?
That's
Travel
right.
time than it is for someone who is in Toronto, because you got Boston right there, you got Philly right there, you got Pittsburgh right there, New York, everything is close. So that's first off. With relation to Jim Matheson's comments, I will only say one thing and one thing. As a reporter, and I'm learning how to become one because I'm not as professional. I'm not in the Hall of Fame, although if they want to take my name, I'll happily give it to them on a billboard. I respect what Jim has done in his history and what he continues to do. And I understand that you have to ask difficult questions and sometimes they're monotone and the same. The fact that he used the wording, "Why are you so pissy?" in an interview with a superstar, that irked me, because you do not say that to anybody, regardless of what it is. I can understand when you're bantering with a friend and you're, "Why are you being pissy?" Right? But if I'm interviewing you as a professional, you got to keep it professional. And somebody who's been in the business for 40 plus years should know that saying, "Why are you so pissy?" after they wouldn't answer your question the way you wanted it, so you get a tagline, that's where I draw the line. And Bob Stauffer had the same thing. Sorry. Go ahead.
And he added at the end, when he didn't like the answer, he asked to elaborate, and when he didn't like the answer, then Jim went further and says, "Well, I notice on the ice, you think people like you showing how upset you are in the game," or something along those lines, which was kind of like, okay, the way you worded that is because you're mad at the response. That's not a Hall of Fame responsibility writer.
No.
I think he made the mistake in the moment, but guess what? It's got the town and the city and Oilers fans outside in the States and around the world.
NHL fans.
Yeah, it's got them talking, and it's distracting from sitting there playing no games and or losing.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm going to compare the Edmonton season to two of those clips. The Edmonton season, when we were 9-1 and everyone was in bliss land and happiness land, it was like having the interview with Brendan Perlini, who spoke magically and made everyone feel heart and warm and fuzzy, and everyone's like, ah. And then the last little bit, that's the Leon Draisaitl versus Jim Matheson interview. That is what we've been going through. We went from Brendan Perlini happiness to Leon Draisaitl madness.
So what about now? You talked about the professionalism, and I know this is just a side of, this is a symptom, just like COVID. There's symptoms of COVID. There are symptoms of frustration in the dressing room. Noticing the responses. We haven't even hit on McDavid and the whole Kane issue and what was said. We'll hit that in a moment. But with Leon Draisaitl, with his response to, now we don't know what went on before. It sounds like there was some stuff going on, and I'm not going to put out rumors, but some people think they saw this coming in this conversation. Some people that are kind of behind the scenes on this stuff. So I don't know if it was or not, and I'm not going to speculate. However, Leon answered with, you know everything.
Yeah.
Like, that's really inappropriate for an $8.5 million man and a player. So if we say, well, he's frustrated, he's answering the same questions, then we have to go and say, well, the writer's frustrated, he's trying to ask questions, you're giving him nothing. Now, granted, I actually think and a lot of fans, of the game of hockey and the Oilers, particular in this one, they're upset because they're saying they need to send out Holland more, and they need to send out for these media avails less. The players can talk about the game on the ice right there and then. This is like days and days of practice. He's answering the same thing he's answered in all the days of practice. Right.
I'm just going to go back to the conference that Holland had when he acquired Duncan Keith from Chicago. And one of the things that he talked about in an interview, when I'm forgetting the reporter, I believe it was Ryan Rishaug, you guys can correct me. He said, well, was there any negotiations or something? And I'm paraphrasing, when acquiring and not having any cap retention from Chicago's end. And I think the quote that Holland responded is like, well, what did you want me to do? Get him for free? And that's where I would suggest, why don't you say then, why are you being so pissy, Holland? Because that could have been a pissy moment by Holland. Holland was getting upset last week when he had his interview, his press conference about what's going on with the team. And he said it's in the room and what does he want him to do and ... And I think to myself, well, why doesn't the media attack Holland or question Tippett even after some of his choices in the game, right? Like, we as fans, people continue to believe that we're armchair GMs, but we have eyes too. We can watch the game. You don't have to play the game to understand the game and observe the game and have a clue as to how certain decisions are made. And when you're playing your top centers, Leon and Connor the most, 23 minutes a night, and they're exhausted, and Brendan Perlini is playing 5 minutes and still scores against Ottawa in under 5 minutes, what is going on? Ask the big questions to Tippett.
Exactly. 3 goals in 5 games for Perlini, and he's still not getting up there. Get him on the second line unit power play. Throw something out there. You absolutely. Let me come back to what you were just saying about Holland. I think there's a lot of talk about right now, how does this team turn it around in the dressing room? Now we're getting pumped, guys, and we haven't even got started yet. Woo! Okay, so in the dressing room, there's all this talk that is McDavid a leader, is Draisaitl a leader. This like they're pouting on the ice, or they're upset, or they're giving bad looks to people. It's like, guys, look at every other team. It's the same. This is not a dressing room issue. This is a leadership issue, in my opinion, from the top down. And let me go back to your comments. How has Holland responded, dating back to when he first had his big moves in this summer, like you said, with the Duncan Keith? By the way, I still stand behind that trade. And I want to say to anyone that's dumping on Keith this year, what the hell are you looking at out there? Right now, Keith is their best defenseman. He is blowing Nurse out of the water, which I want to talk about that stupid contract that is ridiculous. That guy is not worth more than $7 million a year, and he's playing like a $4 million player right now. They are in cap hell next year.
Who signed him to a bridge deal? Who signed Darnell Nurse to a bridge deal to deal with this later and could have signed him earlier on?
Who?
Mr. Ken Holland.
Okay, so
saying.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody warned them that Ken has done crappy in the cap error. It's like he thinks he's the capologist instead of hiring someone that understands the numbers. And I agree on the Keith deal. It was terrible on the cap part. What he could get or didn't get, that was a whole other thing. What he dealt with. But I just want to say, for those dumping on Keith, Keith has been the best defenseman. He is doing what he's doing, and he's actually got better. Is he worth the money? Absolutely not. Barry's not worth the money. Nurse isn't worth the money. Right now, actually, a player who has overperformed for himself has actually been Chris Russell. The crazy thing out of that, I mean, out of all those people who should always be on the third line, who got overused when they were down on their players. So anyway, let's go to Tippett. So now look at Ken Holland, how he responds. Well, what do you want me to do, he says. Okay, let's go to Tippett. Tippett takes Koskinen and throws him under the bus, right? Yeah. He said something. Now, do you do that? Is that proper? Well, some people do and some people don't. Okay, next freaking game. They're playing and Smith screws it up. I mean, he plays totally out of position. Lets that first goal of the game in again. Does he get questioned?
No, he says that.
No, go ahead. Sorry. No, go ahead. Right. Okay, so he doesn't get questioned in there. And then all you hear is, we're working on some things. It's just like there's absolutely nothing happening. And this is what I think, Pavel. And tell me, if you're an Oiler fan, if you're a hockey fan following what's happening in Edmonton right now, do you not think this is a top-down issue with the way the players are responding? Leadership is about influence. And that group of Holland and Tippett, I don't think that they're going to correct any of the players with the way they're talking in media veils, because the players are copying the exact attitudes of the general manager. And I think it's like do you remember when Milan Lucic came to Edmonton and he said, we need to have some swagger? Yep. Well, I think they got swagger, but they don't win. And
I don't think they have swagger right now. I think they've lost all their confidence and have nothing.
I think that they think that they're better than they are, and they need to get a dose of reality and just get back to working hard. Because go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that last game against Ottawa, you don't have a 3-1 lead and lose it and then get ahead again and then lose it again and don't even make an overtime point. I mean, like the team gave up.
So two things. With that Smith game, I don't know if you know, but Smith actually played injured with a wrist injury, which is why he's out now again.
Yeah,
so now
true.
Tippett is going with him instead of Koskinen to let Koskinen prove himself or bring up Skinner because they dropped down Skinner, even though he's played well. And I think out of all three goaltenders, even beyond the Ottawa game, he had his best. He's played the best out of all three goalies. I mean, he continues to get injured. But it was Holland who signed Smith to 2 years, which was stupid. Not just taking away from Smith and all he has done. What I think the influence came from is Tippett's relationship and intimacy or close relationship with Mike Smith that allowed Mike Smith to stay here an additional year. You know what? He could have been signed for 1 year, or we could have picked up a Craig Anderson or a Devin Dubnyk or anyone else for 1 year and would have been fine. We have him for 2 years, right? Koskinen is gone after this year. Granted, who knows where he'll end up. So Tippett overplays Smith. Last year he played well, but the schedule was condensed. It was all Canadian division. There was different circumstances. Now it's different, and he's injury prone. And I think if anything, Smith does need to retire. I'm sorry, Oilers fans. That being said, I think Mr. Smith can become our new head goalie coach, because I think Dustin Schwartz, who's been in his role since 2004, I believe, or 14, correct me guys if I'm wrong, he has been there and he has ruined a lot of goalies. And when Devin Dubnyk has had his interviews, and even Cam Talbot, look how well Cam Talbot is playing in Minnesota. I say to you, we need a new goalie coach. And I think Dustin Schwartz, get out. Not to mention, he trains Carter Hart in the offseason. Look how well he's doing in Philadelphia this year. So good.
Who trains Carter Hart?
Dustin Schwartz. He's one of the trainers. Yeah.
I didn't know that one. Okay,
Well,
you know what?
Hard from here. He comes to
I
Edmonton for the summer.
That's right. That's right. So I want to actually talk about goaltending coach stuff, but let's go to the goaltending here, guys. I know we're moving quick and changing. We might come back to some of this other conversation. Okay, so when it comes to the goaltending, there's all this. What is going wrong with the Oilers? It is goaltending. Goaltending. Their defense is not great, but their defense will rank in the middle of the league. They're going to be 10 to 15 kind of a team. That's what they have the ability. I get it. There's been COVID. 22 players have been gone down. Some actually sick, but most of 18 of the 22, I believe, have been asymptomatic. So they're just training off the ice is what's happening. But let me mention this. This is so important. You cannot win in the 800 save percentages. Now you go, oh, well, quality chances. So if anyone follows the quality chances from the Cult of Hockey, I encourage you to follow it. David Staples. They just talked on today's show. I just picked it up. I was going in to look for some of these stats. So during the 16-5, the quality chances for were 15 quality chances, not just shots on net for the Oilers, and 12 against. So 15 to 12. During this time of this losing streak, they are 13 quality chances for and 12 against still. No. Their play on the ice is not the problem, folks. The defense isn't playing porous, giving up more chances. The goalie lets the first bloody goal of the game, and you can't play 80% of your games behind. Look at when they score first. They win every bleeping game. And so I understand you can't keep talking to a goalie about it, and the goalie needs to get out of it, but he hasn't got out of it. Koskinen still, that's why they say, oh, Mika Kostas again, right? Instead of Koskinen. But he's a good goalie, but he's not a good enough goalie.
Yeah, and he's a 1B.
Yeah, and like you said, Mike Smith, he got his contract because of last year. Granted, he deserved it. 2 years. So now what do you do for the following year? You can't rebuild. You got to stick with the goal who might be on the long-term injury. So, and now, and I will say that last game, please, folks, Stuart Skinner, next day he's diagnosed with COVID. No one's talking about the fact that he did have COVID, even though, yes, he was asymptomatic, but that doesn't mean anything. You cannot know it, and it can affect your overall energies. He was not sharp mentally that night. That was one of his worst games dating back to his first one. And again, I don't blame it. I felt the game was really on him, but I also looked and said, what was with the fact that right now the defense is allowing all these cross ice pass. Their penalty kill sucks. They can't block lanes. They're not doing nothing. So okay, let's talk about goaltending coaching stuff.
Go ahead. You rip it off. I've got more stuff to go on.
Okay. So let's talk about what a goaltending coach's job are, because I know I've listened to Strudwick and I've listened to a few of those other guys in our local area talking about how it's not really that important. Get a life. It is. You never played goal before. Listen, their job as a goaltending coach is to run drills with the goalies, work them through. Every team, though, has a vision of what a goaltender is supposed to be. And Dustin Shorts is shaping that vision around what they are happy with, what he's shaping it, the style of play. He is a very strong, focused butterfly goalie. He teaches them to drop. It is a part, Woodley will talk about it if you guys follow Woodley. He'll talk about how he teaches them that drop style of play. But there's certain mental attributes they need to have to kind of shore up. And we saw it with, like you said, Cam Talbot. He kind of started building himself back up in Calgary, back to where he needed to be over in Minnesota. Good on him. He's rebuilt his mental game. I know, exactly. But it's an overall understanding. I don't think he understands the bigger game. I don't say you always have to be played in the NHL. But every goalie coach has to have a sense of what the optimal goaltender should look like. And I feel he's good maybe for the development and noticing, but not for on the NHL team, because he doesn't know how to work with the professionals. For a large extent, they are the goalie's external eye. Grant Fuhr talked about that when he was down in Arizona. He just says, I'm an extra set of eyes upstairs. And so then they need to come down and have those discussions. You need to kind of get into, you got to be like a psychologist without being a psychologist, if you know what I mean. And that coach's feedback is going to influence that positioning. So if a player's not listening and they're not trying to work on the changes, if you're so good, then the question is, why are you not getting them to follow anymore? And yet your whole point. So this, I guess, instead of ranting on, I can go on for a while about the goaltending stuff and what their real job is and how they got to fit. Here's the question. If people like Strudwick and others are saying it's not on the goaltending coach, then what the hell is the goaltending coach's job? It's got to fall with somebody. And there is a repetitive pattern in Edmonton dating back to Devin Dubnyk, like you said, and we saw these players come and leave and go on. And Mikko
and pick up bad habits.
Oh,
that's what Devin Dubnyk was quoted saying.
So 6'7", Mikko should not be letting these goals in top corners. He needs to not play. They need to adjust your stupid style. And you're right, Dustin. And what about the whisperer, Sean Burke? Why did he create? You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Side note, isn't it fantastic and weird? It's a fun little phenomenon that I think there's no more than 2 to 3, I could be wrong, goalies in the NHL that are right-handed. Isn't it weird?
Yeah, it is.
Most goalies are left-handed. That's something fun fact that I was listening to one of the broadcasts talk about. I agree with you. Here's the thing, though. We have fired our penalty kill and our power play coaches in the past. We have fired assistant coaches in the past. We have gotten rid of specialty coaches. Why can't we get rid of him? What is it that this man has on Holland or anybody else, or maybe Daryl Cates, that he still has his job for this long? Even if it's just the changing of the guard to change things up. We need to change things up. If you want to bring in the old boys club, bring in Andy Moog, who's out in St. Louis, who's training a lot of their goaltenders, and they're succeeding. Why is it that every other team has had good goaltending? I'm not gonna lie. Ever since Rollerson left, and I mean Cujo was phenomenal in the '90s, and we had great goaltending in the '80s. But ever since Rollerson got injured, we have not had grade A quality goaltending in this city, and that is why we have struggled as a team. And it doesn't matter what your defense is, you can mask that. They've done it in Pittsburgh. They've done it in all moderate teams. Pittsburgh ended up going to the finals. They didn't have the best defense, but they had a solid enough goaltender who was hot and was able to save them and bail them. Wow. I think that needs a change. That being said, it is on Holland for putting up our top 4 in terms of our defense, because that defense is not good. When you get rid of Bear, a right-handed shot defenseman, which are coveted in the NHL, and you bring in Cody Ceci, and I understand losing Larson was a big loss, and I miss him because I wanted Larson here. I love Larson, right? And I understand that there was, things in the background that weren't working out. And, the thing with his dad and the Taylor Hall trade and everything, that was bad. And definitely the media can be toxic and fans can be toxic around that. But I think our top 4 is trash. I told you my feelings about Keith. I don't think he's worth 5.5. Yes, he's played better as of late, but at the beginning of the season, he wasn't what he wanted to be. There were some issues with the COVID vaccine. Things were all going around. Darnell Nurse was asked to step up. We've lost Clefbaum. That was a big loss.
That was.
You bring in Ceci to replace. Barry, I told you, was not worth the money, and I didn't want him. And I think Bouchard could do exactly what Barry does, except he's cheaper, and he's ready to take that step, which I think, apart from a few mistakes, Bouchard has made a lot of strides. Broberg is an option. We had a lot of young guys coming up. Nemelainen, who has been a phenomenal player for Edmonton and come up. I think one of the people that has really regressed is Slater Cuckoo. Like, he's really not played his best. I think he's kind of lost the step. Yeah. Right. I think our top 4 is struggled. And when, and Barry, I'm not going to lie, he's bad. Like, that is a bad contract. And I agree with a friend of the show, Jordan's. I think we got to put all eggs in one basket and go for it now and go for Jacob Chikrin. I'm sorry. We need to do something there.
So I'm going to come out and say that, I just one thing I love Ethan Bear as a person, but as a player, I still think he was overrated. I know some of you Bear guys out there. I don't have an issue with that. And to be honest with you, basically he was replaced by Cody Ceci. Cody Ceci is not the problem on this team. He is fine. Him and Keith on this team. The bigger problem is you got number 1 and number 2. Barry cannot play that top role. So I am going to surrender because I screwed up on the call on Barry. As much as I thought we would have a repeat of last year. And even though he's got his failures, I did not think he would regress like he has this year. I think it's time to take him off there. And I do think, by the way, that he will be a target that's going to be moved for something somewhere else, because he does want to win a cup. And that will be his somewhere. I don't know. I just think that's what's going to happen. But they don't have no one in the number 1 spot. They have to overplay Bouchard to go with Nurse. Right now, I like CC and Nurse kind of working together. And I like to see Bouchard being mentored by Keith at doing what he does do, so he can learn that knowledge. They are putting Bouchard with rookies and or third line guys all the time, and I think it's a bad spot. And get the guy on the power play. Put him on the number 1 power play. Yeah. Bouchard needs to start getting in there. He's in his contract. Bomb. Yeah, exactly. By the way, the inside, for those that love Broberg on that third line, sounds like this might be more about contracts in the future. The reason we're not seeing him up right now playing as much as we like him, so they don't burn a year of the elite level contract. That's what I think's happening. He'll be up come the end of the Bakerfield season, and or if there's too many injuries moving forward, which, by the way, 29 games, 28 games in 60 days. Get ready for a lot of injuries on the back end.
So my only issue is that Holland said we are all in, and with Leon and Connor being in the years that they are, with what the 4-year window as we were promised, we're in win mode now. I am sick of getting the exclamation from Holland saying, well, we have to, make sure we save the future and ... There is no future. We'll scrap it and get rid of it if McDavid and or Leon decide to leave. And then what are you doing? You do it now. You risk your first-round draft pick. You didn't do it last year. And to get back to coaching, I'm sorry to say, but maybe you do need to bring up Jay Woodcroft and give him a chance to shine, because he has done well in Bakersfield. They won last year. They've performed well, developed well. All they've got, Puljujärvi, Yamamoto, right? Tyler Benson. Why is Tyler Benson, our project which we protected in the offseason from Seattle, not playing or playing on the bottom lines? Like, again, this comes down to coaching and how his systems are in place. Now, I remember when... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, now I remember Todd McClellan was stubborn for not changing up his lines. Yeah. And now you have Tippett, who does consistently changing up nonstop. You need to find a middle ground, right? But you see Todd McClellan succeeding in LA with rookies. You see Dallas Aikens and what he's doing with Anaheim. And of course, granted, you have John Gibson, so say what you want. But all those young guys, Mason McTavish, Troy Terry, Trevor Zegras, right? Yeah. I think coaching does need to change. It does give teams a boost. You look at Philadelphia Flyers with their boost, with Mike Yeo coming in. You look at Vancouver as the prime example. I don't understand why Holland's never fired anyone mid-season. Let's do it up. And I'm sick of Holland, or maybe I should start a drinking game. Every time he relives the glory old days in Detroit, I'm going to start drinking every time I hear Detroit from Ken Holland's lips.
Okay, man, we are run out of time. We're actually 5 minutes past when I told you we're going to give our cue. And we have so much still to cover. This is a tough one. We will revisit probably in a month or so here. We're going to have to see where they are. Let's give them about another 12, 15 games, folks. And we're going to come back and revisit what this team is actually doing. I do want to just quickly touch base. I was telling you about who needs to go to Seattle. I want to get behind, maybe doesn't make for a good show, but I want to get behind my buddy here, Pavel the Cat. And I want to tell you that Benson, come on. The guy is a top 6 skill winger. He's going in there playing totally out of role. Enough of this crap that you go and play a different type of a game. You're going to work your way to the top. And yet you let all these other guys like Devon Shore play in a top 6, get opportunities because you like them. Okay, so I used to, and Aaron remember, I used to go to the Southside Athletic Club and watch Tyler Benson. By the way, Tyler Benson, Cale Clegg, and Stuart Skinner. I watched them live back in the day, and it was to watch Benson. He was a phenom, and to see what they're doing with him. I'm going to tell you that I remember Robbie Shrimp and others like that. And they said that, well, they're just a bunch of show offs. Benson's not like that at all. And I'm telling you, if he gets out of here and gets a chance somewhere else, he's going to shine. I'd like to see him get 5 games in that top 6. Nothing else is working. But he's got to do it after they get Perlini, because Perlini's actually producing. Here's what I think they need to do. Is there someone in Seattle? We don't have time to talk about this. Write your comments. We'll talk another time. Maybe we'll talk more about what Seattle's going to do for the trade deadline, because they're going to sell. But could they buy maybe someone like Tyler Benson, the very player they were looking for had they not taken Adam Larson? So it'll be interesting to see what happens on that front. I'd like to see Tyler go somewhere where he gets a chance, even in the top 9. Doesn't have to be the top, but you can't put him on that bottom line and play him 5 minutes a game. Total waste. Okay, let's take 3-4 minutes, talk about the coaching pieces, why you think they need to remove the coaching. So I'll share mine, you share yours, and I'll close it up. Okay, guys, here we go. Dave Tippett is outcoached on a regular basis. I don't care what people say. They came in with the number 1 power play. Gullickson knows how to call the power play, gave them a lot of an ability to kind of maneuver around and do what they're going to do. Everyone else has caught up. They figured out what to do. And your job in coaching is to re-strategize how you defend and how you press. They're not doing it. Here's the other thing. Dave Tippett has no idea how to do in-game coaching. So when your team, and I'm sorry, I know I'm extreme on that. That's not true. He knows a lot. He's a professional. I'm saying compared to his compadres, other coaches right now, I believe he's being outcoached by other people because he's stubborn and going to the same plan that's not working. So they want to have a fast on the fly. They want to have a breakout team for chances. Oilers have always won it. What do you do when teams like Toronto, tight fit and checking, teams like Tampa, teams like Florida, when they stand 3 guys up at the blue line? You're not getting in anymore except dump and chase, and we don't have a big built team. So he's not figuring it out. He doesn't seem to be a coaching strategist that I thought he was. I think he's a old school field player that will do whatever he can to win like every game is the playoff. And that's what he's falling back on. And I agree. You don't bring Gullickson. He's the same of the same. Sorry, you're going to have to revamp, but I would just move out Dave Tippett now. It's the end of this. Don't wait till the end. Like you said, it's an all in. They need a goalie right now. That's Holland's job. They need a 3rd-line center. That's Holland's job. Or they need to re-strategize and get a winger and put the RNH on the 3rd-line center when he comes back. I'm not sure about that. Okay, we don't have time to talk about that. You got to talk about the coaching in a sec. So here we go. They need to do that. But the coaching, I think the only answer is Jay Woodcroft, because if you pass up on him and you go grab somebody else who there's really nobody in midseason, if you pass up on him, he will now take the next NHL coaching job. And believe me, there is talk around the league that he is the next great coach coming into the NHL.
Oh, 100%. Well, we've had quite a few good coaches. I agree with everything you said. I think it's time to do a change, because I think they should have changed before the Ottawa game. But of course, Tippett said, or Holland said they're going to review it before then. So, what does that mean? He's never changed it before. I personally think he's not going to make a change just because he's going to be stubborn. And I think if we lose the playoffs, there's going to be a lot of serious questions, not just about Tippett, Holland, but also about Nicholson in the offseason. I will give credit to where credit is due, and I give credit to Holland for how he repaired the Puljujärvi situation, because that was a broken relationship, and he did mend it, and he was able to bring him back. And Puljujärvi has performed great as a top 6 players and succeeded, and honestly will get a Selke vote and could be a Selke winner in the future. I do want to give credit where it's due. And I think Holland did bring in some wingers like people talked about with Hyman. Granted, he overpaid a little bit, but, he brought it in to work with McDavid. And he had seen some players that he's able to work with. He did what he could when the cap was a constraint. That being said, coaching does need to change soon, because if they lose and they have a difficult schedule coming up, Florida, Washington, Calgary, not in that order, it's going to be tough. Tampa Bay, like that, those are tough teams to beat, right? So don't take them lightly. And we got to play to our best of our ability, and we're still dealing with injuries. My final thoughts on Edmonton and the whole thing is that maybe you need a Kane to stir shit up in this city and bring it in. Cassian's turned his life around. Kane's not the same case, but
forgot all about that.
But you know what? No, you can finish on that. But you know what? Sometimes a jolt of wild energy is all you need. What's the problem with taking a risk? And certainly there's a lot of side problems, but for a year at 1.5 million, if you're taking him on, why not give him the best winger that McDavid has ever played with thus far in his career, right? That being said, it could turn into a disaster. So what's one more pile of poo on the big pile?
Oh my
Final
goodness.
thoughts, Evan.
Okay.
On McDavid and leadership, and then close up.
McDavid leadership, man. Okay. No, I'm not even going to talk about Connor McDavid and leadership. Kane, I say if they can get him, they bring him in. Problem is, I think he's getting suspended, and the suspension won't start till the team signs him. So you're going to have to be prepared. But I'm going to say that I believe the Oilers do have a tentative deal. There's too many inside. And by the way, Sportsnet didn't seem to have the insiders. TSN did. And I believe by the responses we heard from some of the players and what we've heard from Holland, the way they answered sounds like it was a done deal. And so I'm just going to go with where there's smoke, there's fire, as we say all the time. And I do believe that it's there. If he'll be suspended for the rest of the year, they're not going to actually sign him when the investigation is over. But if they can get him back even for a playoff run, they're going to go ahead and take the chance, and they'll deal with it, and they'll let the chips fall where they may, which will be a good sign to Kane should maybe he turn it around. Can he? I have no clue, guys, whether he can turn it around. But frankly, the COVID stuff doesn't bother me, whatever he's done. The allegations, by the way, he had a restraining order against his own wife for domestic violence, so be careful with those. The issue that we truly knew about was gambling debt, not gambling on hockey. And then it's just some of the attitudes he had at different places. But when guys
he did have a fake vaccine card for a while.
Yeah, but I'm saying for me, I really don't care about that as a fan. That part does, that's to me a very small, minor thing. It's just whatever, because people have a lot of different takes, whether I agree or disagree with them on that stuff. So I'm not holding that as something to say I'm not signing a player. That's what I'm saying. I'm not taking the high moral ground. You guys are all out there kind of trying to take I've gone way off. I'm going to end with this.
So the fact that Holland has to resort to potentially maybe or maybe not signing Kane in right now for the Oilers to add scoring and depth just goes to show you that he failed the mark on filling this team after what he had said he prepared. That's all I'm going to say.
If he dealt with the goalie issue, we wouldn't be sitting here. I'm going to come back to the goaltending, which leaves me, guys, look out for either an off season with Price if he can return. But if they can wrap something up, I want you guys just to keep your eyes wide open right now. There's talk that they'd like to get Grubauer back in Colorado, even though he's got the different contract. He went for stability. And if that happens, Kemper comes available, and Edmonton was after Kemper, and could Edmonton want Grubauer? So look at Marc-Andre Fleury, look at Kemper and Grubauer and Price, and look in that group. If Edmonton makes a deal, one of those goalies is coming to Edmonton. I don't know how. You tell me how, but they're going to make it happen.
I'm saying two more goalies. Linus Ullmark in Boston and Alexander Georgiev in New York Rangers.
Oh, you forgot about Korpisalo also. Okay, guys.
I love Korpisalo. He has worse numbers than Koskinen.
Oh, we started
He has worse numbers than Koskinen.
We started this show saying that we were not going to go as long, and there we did it again.
Sorry.
All right,
well,
man.
Guys, thank you for tuning in. It's been a treat. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all the things. We love hearing from you. What are your thoughts? Will the Edmonton Oilers make the playoffs this season? Write your comments below. We love to hear from you. We can't wait to see you next time. And in the meantime and in between time,
keep your stick on the ice, brother. Cheers. Stay safe.